today's video, we're going to be having a conversation about Obsidian Flames and if Charizard sets are kind of just boring at this point. But before we jump into it, as always, we do weekly giveaways. All you have to do to enter is leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. On top of that as well, we're doing Twitter giveaways. Make sure to give us a follow for that. And then lastly, the two places you need to check out, as always, Discord if you want to stay up to date on all things PokemartUSA. And if we ever have spots built for the Patreon to get access to Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Flesh and Blood, and so much more at wholesale prices, make sure to check that out. Links are down in the description below for everything. But jumping into today's topic, we're going to be having a conversation about Obsidian Flames and just a lot of the sentiments that's been going on around it. And we're going to be taking a look at some older sets as well within the past year to two. So Obsidian Flames, what is there really to say about the set? If you haven't already gone and seen the reveal, what is there really to enjoy in this set? Well, unless you're a huge Vespiquen fan, or Vespiquen, I should say, there's not really much within the set. There was a lot of opportunity for them to make an alternate art Dragonite. There was a lot of opportunity for them to make a Tyranitar alternate art. And instead, what did they do? Or SIR, however you want to call it. They said, hey, we're going to make a Tyranitar with a stupid little crown on its head. Charizard, guess gets an SIR with, once again, a stupid little crown on its head. Now, regardless of whether you like the crowns or not, at the end of the day, there was still opportunities for certain Pokemon to get SIRs, such as Tyranitar and Dragonite. Then it ended up not, and it just became a Charizard set, which mainly is going to focus around Charizard. Now, the question obviously being is, what is the sentiment so far been around the reveal of the overall set? Well, negative. It's been extremely negative. And for that reason, we're going to have a conversation about it today. Now, there's a lot of different, theories that people have. Is it because people are just sick of Charizard? Is it because 151's coming out right around the corner and this is overshadowing it? Is it because we just got reprints for Lost Origin and Silver Tempest booster boxes and people are, more interested in picking Sword and Shield era product up right now? There's so many different things, right? And I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think it's ultimately a mix of things on why there's negativity. But as someone who's a long-term investor, I think this isn't something you should worry about. And if anything, you should actually take advantage of the general panic and fear that people are going to have. Now, in terms of the overall singles in this set, I do expect them to perform extremely poor. Obviously, in the short term, it's going to start off relatively high when we get the reveal, but then after a couple of weeks to a couple of months and prices start to naturally adjust, you are going to see massive corrections. We're already actually seeing something like this happen right now with Ruler of the Dark Flames in Japan. You had opening release prices for Charizards at, I think it was like over $100 and some odd each, and they've just been absolutely just dumping in terms of the overall prices for the SIR for the Charizard and some of the other Charizards in Japan. So it would not surprise me if you saw something extremely similar happen over here in the US, especially considering the fact that if you look at the performance of Snow Hazard, Clay Burst, they performed really well versus, Dark Ruler. It hasn't been performing that well in Japan. And when you're seeing, demand for Japanese cards at all-time highs and it's not performing good, then that's going to obviously give people a little bit of a shake-up in fear. Now, it's a little bit different with them because 151 has already come out in Japan versus the exact opposite here. And also as well, the reveal for 151, it was super hyped up over here and it's being overshadowed, but in terms of the overall reveal of Obsidian or Ruler of the Dark Flames in Japan, we didn't know about the entire full list of SIRs until the day before the set itself was going to be released in Japan. So I don't know what's been going on with the delays in the releases and trying to hype up the set, but it's been a terrible job in terms of marketing, I would say, most recently speaking. But once again, we're going to take a look at a couple of sets in the past year, or I should say in the past generation, Sword and Shield, and we're going to have a conversation on why you shouldn't really be too scared or panic. So most recent set that we obviously had for a Charizard set was Brilliant Stars. So yes, I know people are going to say, well, there's other sets that have had Charizards, like, Pokemon Go had a Charizard, or we had the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection. I'm going to be specifically targeting sets that are going to have a Charizard as like the main kind of like pull, right? not going to be one of the subset pulls. It's not going to be a specialty item. It is going to be a specific set where you have a Charizard as a main pull. Now, as you guys are aware, Brilliant Star prices have, taken a little bit of a dive from the high, which was at around 180. It was pushing actually almost $200 before it ended up getting announced that it was going to get a small reprint. What did this small reprint lead to? It led to prices dropping as low as, we're talking 130, 135 here on TCG Player, but some places were selling it for 120, 125. And it was an amazing pickup if you could at the time. Now, what has since then happened? Prices have skyrocketed up, and now you're seeing it sell for $161 for a booster box of Brilliant Stars. And so prices for this specific item have absolutely climbed. Personally speaking as well, just a little bit of a side note, I think the Charizard alternate art in this set is drastically undervalued. And I think there's actually some, implications on why you could actually see this be a really good pickup. Even the Arceus too, just a lot of, the alternate arts. If we're just watching and seeing what's happened with Sun and Moon era, that you're going to see the same thing happen with alternate arts in the Sword and Shield era. And some cards have already started to see that progressive move. Chilling Rain is a good example of some of the some of the alternate arts. Sorry, I'm starting to confuse the lingo now. Just go up in price, right? And so it just makes sense to me why you could see this exactly happen in Brilliant Stars, right? So price for this booster box, it had a small dip, but as far as its overall performance, even previous to that, it's been one of the best performing booster boxes in the second half of the Sword and Shield era, and it is a Charizard set. Going back even farther than that, we're going to take a look at Champions Path Elite Trainer boxes. This was a set that when it first got revealed, it was, during the time of COVID, there was a ton of scarcity, but it did at some point find its way back to MSRP at that $50 price point. And since then, we're now seeing it selling for roughly around $110. Now, if you look at the overall performance, for a while there, it was sitting at the low 90s, and then it just continued to slowly climb and climb and climb over time. And it looks as if it's still going to continue to climb. If you held this item, obviously you would have 2x your money if you had bought it at the high point of MSRP of $50. Moving on to the next set, even going back a little bit further, Darkness Ablaze. Looking at a set like this, arguably one of the worst sets in the Sword and Shield era. This is a set that got not reprinted once, not reprinted twice, but reprinted 3 times. So it had its initial first wave of when the booster box and the just entire set came out. And then shortly thereafter, there was a small print of it that came in stock, but this was cut short based on the fact that we were going through the pandemic. We had, supply chain issues. And so what ended up happening was about 8 months to a year after that, we got 2 small little reprints of Darkness Ablaze. We saw at first the booster box push 180, gets its first reprint, drops all the way down to 120, then climbs back up to 160, gets another reprint, drops all the way down to 110, 115-ish. And then finally, guess where we are right now? Just enough resiliency for it to continue to climb, where it's now pushing back to 160 again. And it is a chart that looks like it's just going to keep going up, up, and up, right? Now, we're looking at Charizard sets, right? And we're saying to ourselves, okay, how have all these Charizard sets done? They've performed extremely strong. And now a lot of people are going to say, well, Eli, Obsidian Flames, it's just a Charizard set. That's all that's in the set. It's a terrible, boring set. No one really cares about it. Why can't this be any different, right? Like, is this going to be different from times in the past, right? Well, like I said, going back to it, Darkness Ablaze is arguably one of the worst sets in the overall Sword and Shield era. If you guys want to go take a look, we can see what's in the overall set itself. You're talking about what are the main pulls you can get. Charizard VMAX, not even a rainbow, not even a shiny, not even something special, just a regular VMAX Charizard. Other than that, if you're a fan of Scizor and Salamence and some of the other Pokemon that they chose for rainbows and golds, that's about it. And even then, this is going for $30 as a card chase. That is ridiculously cheap, and for that reason, there's been a lot of disdain for Darkness Ablaze, but even then, for the amount of disdain that Darkness Ablaze has had, it is still a Charizard set through and through, and although the Charizard cards themselves might not be performing the best, especially because it's such a terrible choice for a main pull, just a regular VMAX, not even a rainbow, the set itself has still performed ridiculously strong considering how much it's gotten printed or how many times it's gone through and been printed, right? Same concept is going to obviously apply for when we go take a look at a set like Champion's Path. You know, Champion's Path is a set where what's in Champion's Path that there is to desire? Nothing other than, of course, the shiny Charizard, the Rainbow Charizard, unless you're a fan of Gardevoir, which most people are, but not in the same way as they are Charizards. What are you going to want? Oh, a Golden Suspicious Futon, of course. That's what everyone wants when they're chasing a set. Wrong. No, it's a terrible set. Once again, awful, god-awful, awful set, right? There's nothing to enjoy overall within this set. It's absolutely atrocious. Now, Brilliant Stars obviously is going to be a little bit of an outlier when it comes to this because it does have an amazing subset of character rares. It is a set that has, you know, some really good just mainline cards that you can pull. And honestly, the single prices, like I said before, I think are drastically undervalued. But, you know, a little bit of an outlier compared to the other two sets that I have obviously shown you guys. And that's why, you know, you got to show a little bit of diversity there when it comes to just Charizard sets in general. Weak or strong, they're still performing extremely, extremely well. Now, the only instance in which, of course, if you want to consider this a Charizard set where that hasn't been the case, has to be Shining Fates. Now, the reason why this is a little bit different, however, and you have to take this into consideration, is literally right before we had this go out of rotation because this set, Shining Fates, guys, for those of you that don't know, this is no longer in rotation. The cards that were, you know, playable at the time for the competitive format are no longer playable. Why this is important to know, it means this is not going to get a reprint. Well, what happened right before it went on rotation? It got a small reprint. And so you had prices actually going finally, after sitting sideways for a while, start to climb to $60, $65. It gets another reprint right before it goes out of print, and then you're seeing booster box or Elite Trainer box prices go for the mid to low $40. So this is not a set that's been performing bad because it's a terrible set. I mean, you know, it's an okay set by any means, you know, when you look at it overall, but it's a set that is still going to perform, in my personal opinion, long term, because it's just one of those sets that it's a shiny set and it has Charizards in it, and even the crappy shiny sets, which everyone was very much hating on, for example, Shining Legends, still performed extremely well long term, right? And if you guys want to go back even further, right, and say to yourself, why are we getting pounded with this Charizard set? You know, right out the get-go, it's super lackluster. There's nothing to love. You know, we'll skip Cosmic. We'll skip Hidden Fates. We'll skip Unbroken Bonds. All these sets that have performed extremely well. They all have Charizards. Obviously, there's more to that than just Charizards in the sets, which is why they've performed extremely well, because sets that have more than just Charizards will tend to perform better. But if we want to go back and look at other sets that have still performed and seen just general patterns, we can go back to as far as Burning Shadows, a set like Burning Shadows, which what was around in this set at the time, the main pull that everyone was looking for was just the Charizard. Obviously now waifus are becoming relevant, so there is some waifu cards that people are wanting to go after, but outside of that, it was, you know, Gardevoir, Darkrai. That was it. Most people didn't really care. The pull rates were difficult in this set. The overall condition of the reprints for the set was absolutely terrible. Qualities were just awful, right? And then let's go back even farther. XY era, Flash Fire, another set which was predominantly a Charizard set. So why am I specifically showing you guys these two sets? For example, which once again, looking back at this, just Charizards, nothing good. The premise of what I'm trying to more or less show you is going back to as far as the XY era, right? Within the first three sets, we had a Charizard set. Flash Fire. Sun and Moon era, within the first three sets, we had a Charizard set. Burning Shadows. Within the Sword and Shield era, within the first three sets, we had a Charizard set. Darkness Ablaze. And Scarlet and Violet, what do you know? Third set, it is a Charizard set, Obsidian Flames. So for those people that are asking, I'm sick of Charizards, why are they doing this? This doesn't make sense, and all this negativity. This is just what the Pokemon Company's been doing for the past 4 generations now. It's just the system in which they run things. The sets, typically speaking, tend to perform extremely poor when it comes to the singles. But as we've seen time and time again, these sets have been performing extremely strong when it comes to the long-term sealed value. Now, obviously, the sets that do have Charizards along with other components of it, like Cosmic Eclipse, like Unbroken Bonds, like Hidden Fates, these sets that have Charizard but also have other components that make the set amazing are going to perform the strongest. But the Pokemon Company is at a point right now where it realizes that the target demographic of individuals, whether we like it or not, it's kids that tend to like Charizard a lot because it's a lot of their favorite cards. There's a lot of Gen 1ers that like to collect every Charizard, and so there is a demand, even if there has been a decrease in it, because people are starting to get Charizard fatigue, as shown in a lot of the single prices. Yes, shout out to Nostalgianomics. He's talked this actually on stream with me about it before. We're just starting to see it, right? It's starting to just occur, but that doesn't change from the fact of the matter, which for me personally, I think the sealed is going to be extremely undervalued, because in the long term, regardless of whether or not it's a terrible set, sealed product, and specifically Charizard sealed product, tends to perform really well. That's why I've been super high on the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection. That's why I'm going to continue to be high on the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection, because Charizard sealed product just sells, right? Terrible sets, but it just sells. So ultimately, at the end of the day, if you are someone that is looking at Obsidian Flames and saying, should you buy it? Should you not buy it? 151 is obviously looming within literally a month and a half after the release. So it's crazy to think about. Actually, no, not even a month and a half. It's right around the corner, right? So it's crazy to think, should you be saving up for that? Should be trying to take advantage of Lost Origin? At the end of the day, for me personally, I'm going to be waiting on the sideline, and I'm going to be looking at what the prices are for this, because if they follow anything like what we've seen with Scarlet and Violet base as well as Paldea Evolved, there's going to be an absolute crap ton of opportunity for us to be able to pick up some Obsidian Flames at wholesale or cheaper prices. And for a set that, once again, is going to include a Charizard, regardless of how good or bad it is, it's going to perform really good. And to get an opportunity like that at wholesale prices is something I would love to take advantage of while the market is extremely negative. But as far as it goes for today's video, though, that is all. I want to thank you guys all so much for watching. As always, we do weekly giveaways. All you have to do to enter is leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. We also do Twitter giveaways. Make sure to follow us on that if you want to enter in. And then lastly, you guys know the two links. Patreon, if you want to, of course, get access to Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Flesh and Blood, and so much more at wholesale prices. And then Discord, if you want to stay up to date on all things PokemartUSA. As always, links are down in the description below for that. But that is all for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Until then, I will see you all on Thursday's Live. Peace.